Well, welcome to Tech Education. We have a great guest here. We're here with David Swenson, principal of Skyview High School in Smithfield, Utah. Welcome, David. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I guess first off, just tell me a little bit about cyberbullying at your school and what you've observed in recent years with regards to cyberbullying.
Okay. Well, that's something that's fairly new in a lot of ways. But I'm sure it's been going on longer than what we've experienced. But it's a big enough problem that leaves us scratching our heads. When I say we, talking about my assistant principals, our resource officer, and our SAT team. We have a SAT team. It's called Student Assistant Team, and we meet on a weekly basis, and we talk about at-risk kids. We talk about grades. We talk about attendance. But one of the things that we've addressed a few times is this cyberbullying, because we do have parents and even kids come in with wanting the school and us as administrators to address some of the cyberbullying that goes on, especially when it's off campus. And that's a very difficult thing to try to do.
Right.
Now, if we are able to get phones and find out that they're doing it at a time frame at school, whether it's at lunch or at passing time, we can have a little more bite in that.
Right.
But when it's in the evenings and those kinds of things, it's difficult to try to address that, and especially when it's if it's certain tweets or you don't have anybody that you can identify that to. Right. So, but it's a problem, and it's ongoing, and we have with a team effort, we've addressed some of the issues. Some we're standing there thinking, well, there's nothing we can really do unless we get names, and we can especially identify, even if it's after school hours, if it's coming into our school and affecting the school day and the educational process, then that becomes we can address that more effectively and do some school consequences. But if it's happening after school or in the evenings between each other, it's difficult for us to hold them accountable.
Yeah, that's one of the big issues with cyberbullying, is that it's not like traditional bullying where it takes place on the schoolyard or in the classrooms or the hallways. It can sometimes branch out to outside the school. So it becomes who is responsible for for disciplining or controlling that situation. I guess breaking it down to an individual level, is there a typical kind of adolescent that is involved in cyberbullying, either as an instigator or as a victim? Do you see a trend in who is involved in this?
With just our experience so far, it's hard to define an exact individual. I think probably everybody might participate in some way or another. But we're seeing the kids who are mostly not involved in school activities or extracurricular activities. They're not involved. Kids that might be at risk with grades or attendance. Some of our behavior kids, people who might have a real low self-esteem, and they're struggling with their identity, and they want to be accepted, and sometimes they may use that as a way to try to build themselves up by attacking other people or tearing them down to try to build themselves up. And so we find that at Skyview High School, one of the things that we do, and this is kind of just off the track just a little bit, but we find that kids who are involved in extracurricular activities, who are involved in a lot of things, we do not see them on a regular basis, whether it's either this kind of thing or academics or at-risk behavior issues, because we know that they're developing relationships, good communication skills with not only advisors but with other peers, and they take an ownership in school, and also their parents get involved too, and if their parents are involved, it's kind of a win-win situation. So kind of weaving this back in is that those kids who are not involved and their parents aren't involved are kids probably that are struggling, are probably more prone to be able to do this thing, because they're trying to be accepted, they're trying to be involved. And so one of the big pushes that we do at Skyview is truly one of our mission statements is relationships, and we measure that by how many kids are involved in extracurricular activities or clubs. So we have 30 or 40 different clubs that we offer, plus extracurricular activities, because those things we know that if kids are involved, there's ownership, and then they can kind of get away from this kind of
Right.
identity crisis and
Right.
stuff. So if that helps.
No, that's great. You kind of alluded to it before, but I guess I'd kind of jump back to, as kids engage in this type of behavior, cyberbullying, what do you think they're trying to accomplish by doing that? What need are they looking to gratify by participating in that type of stuff?
Well, I think it goes back just to their personal needs of being accepted.
Right.
Trying to instead of, well, I think some have, like I said, we talked about this kind of low self-esteem. They're able to sometimes with this cyberbullying or texting and even emails, you're a lot safer there than you are up front, person to person. And so I would think that sometimes maybe that instant gratification is they're able to put things out there that maybe they whether it's being negative or attacking somebody, but they're getting gratification without having to do that in front of somebody.
Right.
And it might be just a release valve for them too. Some kids too are struggling socially, and they're struggling with maybe some depression. We've had some people who have, we've had some suicidal kids who we've talked to who just need a chance to express themselves in certain ways. So sometimes it's just reaching out, and they might get some of this gratification by not simply, instead of you and I talking together,
Right.
I can get out and I can tweet or I can say something bad about somebody, and then knowing that, hey, people are going to be talking about it and things like that, they might sit back and think, oh, it's kind of fun to be able to do that. I was the instigator of that.
Right.
But they're safe because there's not a name attached
Right.
and those kind of things. So real dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
Dynamic.
So it sounds like, and what you've discussed that has worked well for Skyview has been trying to provide opportunities for students to develop themselves personally in extracurricular activities and things like that, so that they don't fall back to this anonymous, social networking or cyberbullying. It sounds like that's been a great process for you.
There's actually 2 or 3 things we've been trying to do to attack this, because obviously instead of reacting to it, it's very hard to react. But what are we doing to be proactive and to prevent maybe some of these things? And one of those is, again, we take a survey at the end of each year to all of our students, and they identify the different clubs and activities that they're involved with. And right now we have about 83 to 85% of our kids involved in extracurricular activities, which is quite amazing.
Yeah.
We also have them identify on that survey of, do you have an adult advocate that you feel like you can go to, a place that you could call home, whether that's an advisor, a coach, a teacher. And so we have them list those. And one of our mission statements, or one of the things that one of our vision statements is Skyview High School making a big school feel small.
Right.
Now, how you do that is by relationships, by having adult advocates, and so we've developed what we call it a 1 hour lunch period. It's really not a lunch; we call it a rock hour, where we have a 1 hour lunchtime where kids can get academic support. They can go to their teachers, and our teachers are available either the first half hour of that we call rock hour,
Right.
part of our mission statement, relationships, character, knowledge,
Right.
RCK, or the second part. And so they're able to develop those relationships with those teachers through academic support, through social work, through social services
Right.
that we have available, also through clubs and intramural activities and those kind of things. So we really concentrate our teachers really taking an interest in kids and making sure that we're trying to eliminate those ciphers in the snows, kids that are walking around. And the third thing, I know I'm kind of going on.
No, you're
here,
fine.
but the third thing we're doing this year, which I think is kind of our first line of defense, is we've teamed up with Utah State this year, one of the first in the nation that is teamed up with the university, and it's called Stand for Courage Club. We've identified 30 kids within our school, a cross-section of our starting quarterback to other, just a cross-section of kids who we've identified who is a anti-bullying club. And we meet on a monthly basis, and they have a theme and they have goals, and we're finding out that, as research says, but with bullying, it's actually the peers. If the peers can step in and be a part of that and to stop it, then that's probably the biggest line of defense if we're trying to cure the anti-bullying. So, in fact, we're meeting on Thursday, and one of the things we're addressing is the cyberbullying,
right.
And because that really could be our first line of defense. It's really interesting. You get these kids together around a table, and you pose a problem, and you know what's going to happen? They figure it out. And they come up with wonderful ideas of how we can be proactive, and even whether it's announcements or through our rock hour activity during lunch of addressing this cyberbullying, whether it's just making announcements or getting the word out and those kind of things. And so it's kind of neat to see this group kind of come together and come up with ideas.
Right.
So again, it is a problem. We recognize it, but we're getting the students involved in helping us with address that.
Well, that's certainly what at Tech Education we've found that we can talk about the responsibility of parents or teachers or school administrators, but the research has shown that it comes down to the teens themselves. If they stand up and stand against that type of behavior, that's the most effective and quick measure that they can take to prevent cyberbullying behavior. So, well, I sure appreciate your help and your input. To hear from somebody who deals with this day in and day out and has been on the front lines of this battle, we appreciate you coming.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and thanks for viewing. We encourage any comments or feedback on any of this information, or if you'd like to know more, please reach us at Tech Education. Thanks.